Bezrat Hashem, we're going to be counting tonight Gvura Shebehod. Yesterday was the 29th day of the Omer. And yesterday we were talking about that Chesed Shebehod is making space for another person, recognizing that another person exists. And how do I do that? By acknowledging that the other person has his feelings, has his opinions, he has his life, and I have to make space for another person. This is the Chesed Shebehod. Gvura Shebehod, in order for me to make space for another person, space means that to acknowledge that the person exists and that the world is not only evolving around me, that there's other people in the world. In order for me to do that, then I have to make myself smaller. Or the Kabbalistic term to it is letzamtzem et atzmei, is to make me not as great as I think that I am, and to move myself aside a little bit. And why should I do such a thing? Is that the other person should be who he is. Sometimes people want to try to overpower another person, or try to define to them what they need to be, or me trying to control another person, or just me saying I am the center of attention, I don't care about other people. But when I want to remove myself a little bit, it's for that person to be who that person is. And of course it all has to be aligned with the Torah. It's not when he wants to be who he is that it's against the Torah. If the person is going against the Torah, I don't have any obligation to make room for this person. I'm talking about a person that is around me, that is following the path of the Torah, and I need to make space for that person. And in order for me to do such a thing, then I have to admit that every person has his space. That's what we said yesterday about Chesed Shebehod. Hod can be explained as Hodaya, as thanking, but a Hod can also be admitting, that I admit to somebody, to something. This is called Hoda'ah. Lehodot, in Hebrew to admit is Ani Modeh. Like you say in the morning, Modeh Ani Lefanecha, I admit to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You pray 3 times a day, we say Modim Anachnu Lach. I admit to the Kadosh Baruch Hu that He's the master of the universe. So I have to admit that every person has his space, and not negate or disqualify somebody because I think that I'm so great. How do I do that? And there are many ways of doing it, but first I have to know that the way to do it is that to look at every person and know that I can learn something from that person. If I'm looking at another person and right away I'm brushing him off, then I don't think that the person has any type of worth. It doesn't worth anything. But if I see I can learn from you something, then suddenly you have value. So I have to understand that I can and should learn from any other person. I'm not the number one. Moshe Rabbeinu maybe can be the one that says that I have what to teach. But even people as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, like David HaMelech says, Mikol melamdai eskalti, I've learned from every person. So I have to understand that when I look at another person, I can be inspired by the person. Why? Because most likely that person has at least 1 or 2 midot, a good characteristic that is better than me. And that's the way to do it, is when I look at another person, not to look at what he's lacking, or what he's not doing, or what he's bad at. That's very easy to find the deficiency or the lack. Now look at another person and say, what can I learn from that person? Must be that he has at least 1 midah, 1 attribute better than me. And if he has one thing better than me, then already that's a place for me to learn from him. And if I'm already able to learn from him, then I acknowledge, I admit that that person has also his space in the world. The only way of doing it can only be done in the power of Gvura, and that's making me smaller. If I don't know how to make myself smaller, then I don't know how to make space for another person. This is the Gvura Shebehod. Hod is when I admit that you exist, that you have a talent, that you have something that you can teach me. You have feelings, you have an existence, you're a person. How do I do that? I have to take the power of Gvura is to contract myself. Letzamtzem et atzmi, to make myself smaller. Now, I spoke last week and this week that the Sfirah, the whole week of Hod, is one of the most important parts of the Tikkun HaMidot, is making nothing out of myself. And when we think about it, one of the things that we're doing throughout the Sfirat HaOmer is, what are we doing? We are mourning the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva. And what exactly are we mourning? The fact that they did a sin. As great as they were, as great sages as they were, they sinned towards each other, and therefore there was a plague and they all died. So part of us mourning, because one can argue and say, well, I'm not mourning death of others. Am I mourning the killing of Rabbi Akiva, who died as a martyr, as a Harug Malchut? We don't mourn the death of anybody. Why am I mourning now the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva? So one can look at it in a different way and say, we're not necessarily mourning, rather we're trying to do a tikkun for them. We're trying to do a rectification for what they failed. And not by making them less than what they were, but obviously as great as they were, they missed something, that they didn't respect each other the right way. So part of Sfirat HaOmer is doing a tikkun for that, is actually acknowledging other people. I mean, we don't know exactly what was the sin they did, but nevertheless, we do know that they, how as the Talmud says, lo nagu kavod ze bazeh. They didn't give respect to each other. Why? Well, I mean, as there are different opinions, but we come here to do a tikkun, to do a rectification. Now, usually what will be the obstacle of me making space for another person? Has to be some type of an obstacle. What would be that obstacle? Me. I am the obstacle. I am the one who will cause the problem that will make room for another person. Why? Because in my eyes, I think that I'm the most successful. I'm more right than you. And that was maybe the problem that the students of Rabbi Akiva had. I'm more right than you. I learned from the best, and I know what needs to be done. So we have also this problem that, I mean, again, I'm talking in general, not every person. I'm talking very general here. It's very important that people don't take it necessarily personal to their life. But either way, even in a refined way, we all have that issue that when I get into an argument, usually the argument is because I think I'm right, you think you're right. But I think that I'm right because I can't be wrong. You have to be wrong. I'm the right one. Why? Because I think that I'm the successful one. I'm the smart one. I'm the right one. So the thing is, then if that's what I'm thinking, then it means that you don't have any value, or you don't have a role, or you don't have a part. If I completely negate you, if I completely disqualify you, what am I thinking of you? That you are nothing. If I'm not looking at your opinion right now, or at your thought, or desire, or what you coming into the argument, so I'm totally disqualifying you. And maybe that's what the students of Rabbi Akiva did. That they saw themselves as that's the only option. I don't look at you as an option. But nevertheless, this is something that I need to rectify. Gvura shebehod, this is the sphira we're going to be counting tonight, is coming to help me with that. Because I need to admit that another person exists in the world. And that they have a space. In Lashon Kodesh, in Hebrew, you say, lehodot b'mkomo shel hasheni. I have to admit that you also have a place. You also belong in this world. You also have a mission in this world. You also have a purpose. You also have your thoughts and feelings and desires. And Hashem loves you like He likes me. Maybe He likes you more, but nevertheless, I have to admit that you have also a place in the world. So Gvura Shebehod is coming to help me to do that by making me a little bit smaller. How do I do that? By admitting that I'm not so perfect. Again, I told you Hod can be explained as Hodaya, thanking. This is one approach of looking at the entire Sphira, that I constantly have to be in a state of thanking and grateful and appreciative. That's one way of looking at it. But also Hodaya is that I admit. So I have to admit, I'm not that great. I know where I'm good at. We spoke about it yesterday and last week. I need to know what I'm good at. And I need to know where I'm great at and what are my values and what are my virtues. But I also need to know I'm not perfect and there are many things that I'm not so great. Now, and if I admit that I'm not so great, then it means that the other person has something that is a little bit better than me. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong to admit that you are much better than me in something that I'm not. You can be a better cook, and you can be a better musician, you can be a better storyteller, and you can be a better gardener. Doesn't matter what it is, but you're better than me in something, that's it, end the story. There's no such a thing that a person has it all. So when I admit that I'm not so great, in other words, then I'm admitting that you're better than me in something. And this is the Hod, this is the admitting, the Hodah. Very important to do this entire practice, the entire week of Hod, Bechlal in general, but specifically the week of Hod, specifically this type of practice has to be done mitoch simcha, from happiness. Not to do it by saying like two little kids when they fight and one of them needs to give in or surrender. He does that because that's what he needs to do, but he does it still with a sour face. Okay, you win. That's not the way to do it. To do it with simcha amiti, with real happiness. Yeah, you're right. You're better than me here. You're more right than me, and so forth. It has to be done from simcha. This is the hodaya. Hodaya, the admitting and the thanking. It has to be done with what's called ayin tova, with the right way of doing it. So it has to be all done in besimcha. If I'm doing it in any other way, then it's not going to work. So again, the gvura shebahod is taking the power in me that allows me to narrow myself, contract myself, limit myself, so that I become a little bit less. By default, you become a little bit more. So I'm making room for another person. Now, practically saying, when we want to apply that into our life, then I have to, first of all, be 100% honest. This is the key to any type of tikkun midot. If you're not honest, it's never going to work. I have to have 100% honesty here. And when I'm thinking honest, then I have to look at other people and say, do I really think that this person is worthless? So don't look at somebody that you love. Look at somebody that you're not 100% crazy about. And ask yourself, but honestly, is that person really no good for nothing? He's like the scum of the earth, the dirt of the universe, where the world can be fine without that person. But you have to be honest, because you look at the person that you dislike. Why do you dislike? Because he talked about you. He lied to you. He cheated you in business. He, insulted you in front of other people. He's smarter. He's more successful. He has more money, whatever it is. That's kind of many of the reasons why we dislike somebody. But I have to think honest. Okay, so that person did something to me. Okay, let's say he did something wrong. But that does mean that there's nothing good in that person? Even if somebody did something wrong to me, and I naturally don't like that person, but I should not like that person, because whatever he did to me, Hashem allowed him to do that. He's just the messenger to say that word, to do something, to slander, to cheat, to take. But I have to look at a person specifically that I'm not crazy about and say, does that person have something good? Yeah, everybody has something good. No such a thing that the person doesn't have something good. And from there, once I see the good in everybody, even the person that I don't want to see anything good, and I want to disqualify the person right away, which is the easiest thing to do, but make yourself a little bit less than what you are, and look for that good part in that person specifically that you don't like. Now you have to memorize in your thought constantly that we are here to fix each other. And how do I get a tikkun for myself? When I look at you, I can't fix myself. I can't do a tikkun by myself. And I explained that many times, that the main part of our avodah, of our effort in this world, is to refine my midot. And now, if I would live on a deserted island, will I be able to do it? No. How would I be able to refine myself if I live in the middle of nowhere? Because if I have to work on the midah of anger, so somebody needs to make me angry. Now, if I live in a beautiful tropical island with myself, who will get me angry? The parrots? The bananas? I need somebody to annoy me. So my midah, the attribute of anger, can be triggered all the time, so I can work on myself. And if I have to work on patience, it can only be when people are around me. I'm not going to be able to work on myself if I'm not connected to anybody. So I have to understand that how do I get my tikkun? Because of you. And usually the people around me are the ones who are going to press the buttons. As the people around me are not the ones who are necessarily the easiest to get along with. It can be a spouse, can be a kid, can be a parent, can be a coworker, whatever it is. If you look around, you'll see that the people in your life are the ones who are pressing all the buttons. But these are the ones who are causing me to be better. If I am childish, if I am narrow-minded, or if I'm what the teachings of Kabbalah explained, calls it katnut hamochin, that my intelligence, my intellect part is in a very limited way, so I don't see you as an assistance, I see you as a burden. This is what's called katnut hamochin. I don't see any benefit in you. I don't see your side. But if I apply what's called gadlut hamochin, that I'm able to make room for everybody and see everybody's benefit, That's how I'm able to apply in my life to understand that you are here to help me grow. And without you, I wouldn't grow. So again, you take this midah of gvura shebehod, that you make yourself a nothing. You diminish yourself. Now, it doesn't mean that you make yourself a loser and you're saying, I'm no good for nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that I contract myself. I take much less space. Sometimes you fly and the people sit like this on the seat. I also want to share the how do you call it, the armrest. Some people sit like that. Okay, you have to sit more like this. We're sharing a flight for 10 hours. It's not about you putting your elbows out. So the entire week of Hod, we have to understand that it's all about admitting that you are better. You're in some things, not in all the things. You have your space, your feelings, your existence. When I know how to apply that, needless to say, this is one of the most powerful things to allow you to refine yourself. And this week is a very important week to move on. We're kind of like in between the tikkun of the midot, between Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, and Chesed, Gvura. We started with the weeks of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, and Netzach. Now we're done with that. Hod is in the middle, and then we're finishing with Yesod and Malchut. So we have to take this week very, very serious. Bezat Hashem, we'll be able to do a tikkun to the students of Rabbi Akiva, and not only that, to do a tikkun for the world and a tikkun for ourselves. And Bezat Hashem, Hashem should make us successful in what we do.